Right as his bond hearing heats up, an old clip of him talking about his alter ego, Melvin, has gone viral. At first, it sounds like classic Melly, but fans think he might have revealed more than he intended. That clip is actually part of a much longer moment that people are now analyzing frame by frame, and some believe it could completely shift how this case is seen.
When the night hits, he really come, and it's like, Melvin is just like, once you play with Melly to a certain extent, Melvin just don't like that. Melvin on your ass.
Analyzing frame by frame, and some believe it could completely shift how this case is seen. Let's break it all down. The documentary that might change everything, No Talk, about this trial is complete without looking at how Melly's been acting in court these past few weeks. People first noticed something was off on the third day. He was sitting with his hands folded, eyes closed, praying under his breath, then opened his eyes and blew kisses to the gallery. Among those watching was Juvie's mother, Leandra Phillips, who didn't take it lightly. Speaking with NBC Miami, she said, "You did it a couple times, that wasn't your first time. I walked out because I don't know what you're praying for. You're sitting there like you've got no remorse. Every time I walk in, you're smiling. This isn't the time for that. This is sad. This case is serious." Besides that, Melly's been seen laughing and joking with his lawyer. In another odd moment, a video showed him making intense eye contact with someone in the gallery, repeating the same words and getting visibly upset. Naturally, the internet had mixed reactions. Some said he clearly doesn't care he's facing the death penalty. Others argued that after being locked up since early 2019, maybe this is just how he copes. Still, it's strange, especially since on the first day of the trial, Melly was caught on video wiping away tears as footage of his friends played in court. Whatever the truth is, Melly knows that testimony from the medical examiners and Sergeant Williams supports the original police report that he shot both men. Facing the death penalty is already heavy, but in Florida, it doesn't take all 12 jurors to make it happen. Under Governor Ron DeSantis' new law, only 8 need to vote for it. If convicted, Melly could become one of the first sentenced under this rule. A site visit by the jurors will play a big role in shaping their view of what went down. So let's go over what's come up so far. Melly wasn't in the car when Bortland drove to the hospital with the victims, but phone data shows all 4 were together just 15 minutes earlier. The prosecution also claims Melly called Fredo Bang to come get him afterward. Felicia Holmes's testimony gave Melly's lawyers a shot at a mistrial, and if he's convicted, that could become key for an appeal to Florida's Supreme Court. We also know Melly and Sack Chaser had some beef a few months before the shooting. Plus, there's that conversation where Melly asked his mom for a .40 caliber gun, the same type used in the murders. The prosecution initially struggled with motive, even bringing in Detective Danny Polo to suggest it was gang-related. But in Florida, they don't need to prove motive, and the testimonies from Sergeant Williams and the medical examiners match forensic evidence from early 2019. Still, police haven't found the murder weapon, which keeps the case from being airtight. That's what's happened inside court. But outside court, there are 2 key things that might shine more light on this case. First, what's Bortland been up to all these years? And second, a wrongful death lawsuit that might finally reveal a motive. Back in April 2020, Melly caught COVID and asked for house arrest. The judge said no, but then let Bortland out the very next month. That raised eyebrows, especially since Bortland's also facing first-degree murder and accessory charges. His lawyer said Bortland got house arrest, but Melly didn't, which is exactly what happened. While Melly stayed locked up, Bortland's basically been free. In January 2023, reports claimed Bortland told police he was just the driver. His trial starts in October, giving prosecutors time to build their case against Melly, and maybe even help Bortland. Testimony says only one person with one gun shot both victims, and who knows what else could surface by October. This creates a tense dynamic. What if Melly's defense blames Bortland? Or what if Bortland cuts a deal and turns on Melly? If they went as far as staging a drive-by to cover it up. Then anything's possible when it comes to saving themselves. Melly could also resent Bortlen for being free while he's been stuck in prison under harsh conditions. He's lost phone privileges over small issues, and he's even said he fears for his life. In one Instagram post, Melly wrote about his struggles behind bars, saying, "I've been threatened by deputies, lieutenants, and sergeants who say they'll hide me from the world and beat me every day. And if I tell my lawyers, they'll lie and say I hit them first." Prosecution is still trying to fill in the hour-long gap between the four men leaving the studio and Bortlen showing up at the hospital in October 2018. In court, the evidence and expert testimonies have painted Melly as someone capable of killing his closest friends over money. A documentary about Melly also highlighted how tight he was with Sack Chaser and Juvie. He called Juvie his day one, and even said they all shared the same dream growing up. So the real question is, did Melly one day decide that only his dream mattered? And if so, was that enough to kill the other two? As the trial unfolds, more wild details will probably surface. But for now, it's a waiting game. Melly, whose real name is Jamel Maurice Demons, is charged with killing Anthony Williams, aka YNW Sack Chaser, and Christopher Thomas, aka YNW Juvie. When he turned himself in on February 13, 2019, Miramar police tweeted that Melly and Bortlen had both been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Police say the forensic evidence shows Melly was the shooter, and that both he and Bortlen staged the scene to make it look like a drive-by, murder. Police say the forensic evidence shows Melly was the shooter, and that both he and Bortlen staged the scene to make it look like a drive-by. Melly sat in jail for 4 years, waiting for his day in court. Now that the trial...
From the day one, I believe that Melly was responsible for my son's death on October 26th when I first heard the story, because his explanation, when I finally talked to him in Portland on FaceTime, their response and how they were reacting, they showed no remorse. They didn't act like they were grieving, like they lost a best friend or nothing. They was, in my opinion, they was in the best spirits. They never came to town, never came to my son's funeral.
If true, it sounds like a confession. But because he's facing the death penalty, the prosecution needs to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Melly actually sent that message, and that it meant what they say it means. The defense quickly pointed out that the message might have been misunderstood, or even sent by someone else. Melly's legal team argued that he usually spells that as dat in texts. So why was it spelled differently here? Could someone else have been on his phone? To back their case, prosecutors said they found a Western Union receipt with Melly's name and phone number confirming the phone belonged to him. But a surprising twist came when Melly's friend Adrian Davis took the stand. He said that the morning after they heard about the deaths, everyone grabbed their phones except Melly. His phone was missing. That opens up a whole new set of questions. If Melly didn't have his phone, then who did? And if someone else had it, could they have sent that message? The answer to that could make all the difference in whether Melly walks free or ends up facing the death penalty. It came out that multiple people often used Melly's phone. Actually, the whole crew sometimes.
Gonna have a break in the case of a double murder in Miramar.
2 people now behind bars, including a South Florida rapper who actually sings a popular song about murder.
So, where was Melly's phone that night? The prosecution claimed they had the answer. Using cell phone data, detectives tracked Melly's phone that morning. They confirmed he had it when leaving the studio, with CCTV showing Melly walking out holding his phone. Melly and his crew left in 2 cars. Police tracked their phones to follow the vehicle's movements. The red Mitsubishi went toward Sunset Lakes while the gray Jeep took a detour. To prove the tracking was legit, prosecutors explained that Melly and Sack Chaser had the same phone model and plan, meaning they used the same network and towers. So if the data was correct, both phones should have followed similar routes. That's what the prosecution tried to show in court. They claimed the Jeep went up Pines Boulevard, then west, and argued it was the perfect spot for a murder. They also said there were no other cell phones in that area that night, meaning the four rappers were likely alone. Then came more explosive evidence. Melly allegedly made a FaceTime call to his then-girlfriend, Mariah Hamilton. Her mom confirmed it.
One individual, and specifically, sends out, and I want to quote the message exactly that you will hear. Yo, homie, you good?
Turned onto Pembroke Road, which dead ends at a trash facility. There are no homes, no cameras, no lights, no one around. The prosecutor during the call, waking her up. After the call,
Mr. Devins responds very succinctly. I did that. Shh.
2 a.m., Melly sent a pin location to Louisiana rapper Fredo Bang. So who's telling the truth? Was Melly's friend lying under oath, or was the cell data flawed? Adrian Davis, who was with them that morning, testified that Melly was with them at the house. Surveillance even showed Melly getting into the gray Jeep, while Davis left in the Mitsubishi. If the Jeep detoured and the Mitsubishi went straight to Sunset Lakes, how did Melly end up at the house with the others in the red car? According to Davis,
The context around the messages matters. So in the context of this message, this individual is reaching out, asking if Mr. Devins is good, after he's been tagged in multiple social media posts about this this shooting.
Juvie's producer, was also called. At first, the defense objected, saying Trayvon had been avoiding police for years, used marijuana heavily, and was only there because he was out on bail. Still, what he said could blow Melly's alibi apart. Trayvon testified that when they reached Melly's house in the red Jeep, only the people who got in
Would you tell the jury how he spells that? That, D-A-T.
According to Melly's defense attorney.
So when Melly spells the word that, you want me to go through all 19 pages? That every time, he does not spell it T-H-A-T,
at the studio were
but
present.
D-A-T.
When asked who was in the car when they arrived at Melly's gate, he replied, wasn't with them when the news
same
broke
people
about
you
the
saw
shooting.
get
in at the studio. 2. People in the red Mitsubishi gave conflicting stories. So who's lying? That's for the jury to decide. While that Instagram
To read the print down at the bottom of this Western Union.
It says Jamel Demons, 604 9th Avenue, Vero Beach, Florida, 32962, USA, and phone number 772-713-9807.
doubt to sway the jury. Still, a lot of evidence ties Melly to the scene, especially his phone. Beyond cell data, others in the case also seem to suggest on social media that Melly played a role in the murders.
Did anyone get on their phone?
Yeah.
Did anyone have any problem locating their phone?
Yes.
Who was that?
Jamel.
Simmons, aka YNW Melly, isn't new to legal trouble. Raised by a single mom, he joined the Bloods young and lacked a father figure. That, plus the gang ties, pushed him into crime. At just 16, he was arrested for shooting
We all use this phone sometimes. We all use each other's phones.
near Vero Beach High School, leading to a conviction for aggravated battery, discharging a firearm in public, and 2 counts of aggravated assault. He served time before getting out on probation. But just a year later, he violated his probation and was jailed again until March 2018. 2 months after his release, Melly was arrested in Fort Myers for drug possession and having weapons and ammo. He got out on bond but was arrested again in January 2019 for weed. Then, in February 2019, came the charges that changed everything. Melly was arrested for the murders of his 2 close friends, Anthony Williams, aka YNW Sack Chaser, and Christopher Thomas, aka YNW Juvie. They were just 21 and 19. The killings, on October 21, 2018, initially looked like a drive-by. It came out that multiple people used Melly's phone. In fact, the whole crew often swapped phones. So where exactly was Melly's phone that night? The prosecution believed they had the answer. Detectives used cell phone data to trace Melly's location that morning. First, they confirmed that Melly had his phone with him as he left the studio. CCTV footage clearly shows him walking out with it in hand. Melly and his crew then left in 2 separate cars. Police tracked the phones from both vehicles to follow their movements. The phones in the red Mitsubishi show
The state intends to show the evidence that the phone was there at the murder scene, and there were no other phones there. There is no one else out there at 4 in the
showed it went straight to Sunset Lakes, but the phones in the gray Jeep took a different route. To prove the data was accurate, the prosecution noted that Melly and Sack Chaser had the same phone model and service plan, meaning both phones used the same towers. So if the data was reliable, their routes should align. Prosecutors used this to compare both phones and track the Jeep's path. They said the Jeep went up Pines Boulevard, headed west toward the Everglades, and then turned onto Pembroke Road, a deserted area with no homes, cameras, streetlights, or pedestrians. The prosecution claimed this made it a perfect spot for the murders. They also said no other phones were pinged there that morning, meaning the 4 rappers were alone. Later, they introduced a FaceTime call between Melly and his girlfriend, Mariah Hamilton. Mariah's mom backed this up, saying,
Did there come a time that you were woken up before you got to the house?
Yes.
What happened?
We pulled over, and that's when Melly got in the car with us.
He woke up when her daughter screamed during the call. Right after, at 4:42 a.m., Melly sent his location to Louisiana rapper Fredo Bang. So who's telling the truth? Did Melly's friend lie under oath, or was the phone data wrong? Adrian Davis, another crew member, had more to say on the stand. He claimed that after leaving the studio, Melly was with them at the house. Surveillance shows Melly getting into the gray Jeep, while Davis left in the red Mitsubishi. So, if the Jeep went to Pembroke Road and the Mitsubishi to Sunset Lakes, how did Melly end up at the Sunset Lakes house? Davis said they pulled over and Melly switched cars. Did there come a time when you woke up before getting home? Yes. We pulled over and that's when Melly got in. Davis said he was asleep and didn't remember where they stopped, but insisted Melly was with them when they found out their friends had been shot. Then came more conflicting testimony. This time from Trayvon Glass, also known as YNW Juby's producer. The defense didn't want him to testify, pointing out that he'd been dodging police for years, used marijuana heavily, and was out on bail. It looked like he was forced to testify. Still, his statement could destroy Melly's alibi. He claimed that when they arrived at Melly's house in the red Jeep, only the people who'd gotten into the car at the studio were present. Who was in the vehicle when you reached Melly's house gate? The same people who got in back at the studio. According to Trayvon, Melly wasn't there at the house, and he wasn't present when they heard the news about the alleged drive-by shooting. 2 people in the red Mitsubishi gave conflicting stories under oath. So, who's lying? The jury had a lot to consider, especially since Melly might have incriminated himself in an old Instagram message. Still, the defense tried to cast doubt, though Melly's cell phone was a major piece of evidence placing him at the scene. But it wasn't just the phone. Others involved in the case also used social media in ways that suggested Melly played a role, either in the murders or at least in the cover-up, legal defense, and what followed. Jamal Maurice Demons, better known as YNW Melly, had a troubled past. Raised by a single mother and lacking a father figure, he joined the Bloods gang at an early age. At just 16, he was arrested for shooting at a group of students near Vero Beach High School. He was convicted of aggravated battery, public discharge, of a firearm, and 2 counts of aggravated assault. After a stint in jail, he was released on probation, but arrested again the following year for violating it, staying in jail until March 2018. Only 2 months later, he was arrested in Fort Myers for possession of weed, drug paraphernalia, and weapons. Though he bonded out in January 2019, he was arrested again for weed. Then came the biggest charge of all. On February 12, 2019, Melly was arrested for the October 2018 murders of his close friends, Anthony Williams, aka YNW Sack Chaser, and Christopher Thomas, aka YNW Juvie, ages 21 and 19. It first appeared to be a drive-by. YNW Bortlen had driven the two to the hospital in a Jeep Compass. But after months of investigating, police concluded that Melly killed them and that Bortlen helped cover it up. Both were charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The police released a statement. Jamal Demons, aka YNW Melly, and Cortland Henry were arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The investigation, supported by forensics, concluded that Demons shot and killed Williams and Thomas Jr. and staged the scene to look like a drive-by. Melly quickly responded on Instagram, denying the claims and saying he was turning himself in. "No, I didn't get locked up in Washington. I'm turning myself in today. I love and appreciate all of you. A few months ago, I lost my 2 brothers to violence, and now the system is trying to find justice. There are a lot of lies, but God is with me and YNW Bortlen." The state of Florida announced it would seek the death penalty, saying they could prove the murders were cold, calculated, and premeditated. Florida is one of 30 states that allows capital punishment. According to Bortlen, he, Melly, and the victims had just finished a studio session when another car opened fire. He said he pulled off the freeway and rushed the two to the ER. But cops found evidence contradicting that story. Forensics showed the shots were fired from inside the Jeep, not outside. There were 8 bullet holes on the right side where Sack Chaser and Juvie had sat. A shell casing was also found inside the car, and 8 matching casings were found elsewhere, suggesting Melly and Bortlen later staged the car to mimic a drive-by. Investigators said the first shot was likely fired from the left rear passenger side, Melly's seat, based on CCTV. Autopsy results showed both victims had bullet paths that went from left to right, again disproving the drive-by claim. Cops also said the 2 suspects drove around with the bodies before going to the hospital. Interestingly, Bortlen later told police that Melly had been in the car but got out at some point. Prosecutors also suggested Melly had a motive, financial gain, but Melly's lawyers hit back, saying, "We disagree with the charges and plan to disprove them." They claimed there was no weapon, no witnesses, no DNA evidence, and no clear motive. Still, the public linked the arrest to Melly's 2017 hit Murder on My Mind, released 18 months before the killings. The track mixed themes of loneliness with murder fantasies. Melly was already in jail when it dropped, serving time for a school shooting incident. After his release, he was jailed again for probation violations, something his lawyers said was based on minor infractions and prosecutors reading lyrics in court. They feared prosecutors would do the same in this case. A court filing confirmed they wanted to keep Murder on My Mind out of the trial. His lawyers also tried to get him released on bond, arguing he had no plans to flee. If he wanted to run, he had the chance when someone else was mistakenly arrested in his place in D.C., but he chose to turn himself in, they said. Still, the court bore damaging evidence. The court denied bond, and Melly stayed locked up for 4 years awaiting trial. Things only got worse. Not long after his murder arrest, Melly was also named a suspect in the shooting death of Deputy Gary Chambliss. A witness claimed Melly and Bortlen were with a group that threw a bottle at a passing car. Someone in the car fired a shot, and one of the